For the last few years, I've been working with the abelian sandpile, experimenting with ways to change its behavior by throwing up walls, toppling on surfaces, and seeding with quilt blocks. My goal is always to create something beautiful, unique, and unexpected. One way to describe the sandpile is as a two-dimensional cellular automaton played on an unbounded grid. Each square of the grid contains a non-negative integer quantity of sand grains. New sand can be dropped all in one spot or in many places throughout the grid. Once the sand is dropped, we check to see if any square contains more than 3 grains of sand. If it does, that square is toppled, and sends an equal amount of sand grains to its 4 neighbors to the north, south, east, and west. This process repeats until all squares contain 3 grains or less. We then color the squares according to the amount of sand. This produces fractal-like patterns, especially if we drop a large quantity of sand. To determine where and how much sand to drop, I decided to use music, specifically a series of piano works by Dmitri Shostakovich entitled 24 Preludes and Fugues. Shostakovich's composition includes pieces in every major and minor key, making it a great data set with a lot of variability. In the musical sandpile model, the notes played determine where sand is dropped, and the length of the note determines how much. If a lower note is played, I drop sand near the center of the sandpile. Conversely, if a higher note is played, I drop sand farther out. The length of the note determines the quantity of sand dropped, expressed in grains per whole note. A 16th note will drop less sand than a quarter note, though each note drops at least some sand. The pile is then stabilized and is ready for the next note to be played. Rather than drop the sand all in one spot, I experimented with several different wave shapes emanating from the center of the pile: squares, circles, and diamonds. Here's a segment from Prelude No. 4 in E minor with all 3 wave shapes. Each wave shape produces a unique sandpile for the same piece of music. My personal favorite is the diamond wave, because it highlights individual notes both while the music is played and in the final image. It has a nice amount of chaotic structure without becoming noise. I also tried adjusting the distance between each wave. This made it easier to resolve individual notes that are close together on the keyboard. Here's the final sandpiles after playing the same piece with diamond waves of various sizes. Using the MIDI file format as input, I was able to time the stabilized piles to the notes being played. What's striking about this is that you can see the notes and rhythms being played in different sections of the pile, evoking the underlying music. Here's a piece where I think this comes out the best: Prelude No. 8 in F-sharp minor. While the music plays, let your gaze move back and forth from the center to the edge, following the 2 rhythms of the piece. The finished pile is striking and unique to each musical work, but the real fun is in watching the pile grow and letting your eye wander. I've watched these piles dozens of times, and I pick up something new with every viewing. The rules for the sand pile seem simple, but as with music, infinite variety is possible.